All right, the Oblivious Saint Can't Control Her Power, episode 1 and 2 review. Spoilers, of course, but mild. I'll try to talk around stuff as much as I can. So the Crunchyroll synopsis is, overshadowed by her saintly sister Flora, plain Carolina seizes a chance to be useful by agreeing to a political marriage with a prince rumored to be cruel. But the prince is nothing as expected. He is a gentleman, and Carolina feels valued for once in her life. As Carolina blossoms, she discovers a sense of self-worth and a mysterious power, while Flora's perfect life back home starts to crumble. Alright, so summary time. Episode 1. This is clearly establishing itself to be a fantasy anime set in a pretty bog-standard, vaguely Western fantasy-coded setting that isn't really tied to any particular historical era. References a lot, but isn't historically accurate, one might say. There's magic, romance with a dangerous male lead, and the expected tense family dynamics that come with this kind of story. There's a rivalry between the sisters that is central to our heroine's distress, that is handled with about as much subtlety as a baseball bat to the face. People don't have conversations like this, like they do in this episode, in real life, but I understand that this episode is trying to cover a lot of ground information-wise. Our heroine is sweet and very easy to project onto, less defined so far. Every male character presented might not be morally righteous, but they're all depicted as being somewhat likable and understandable. In contrast, with the exception of the heroine and dead mom, the ladies don't fare so well. This episode does not like women. And should it proceed to be like this, it would be very alienating. Despite a lot of the awkwardness, we end on a really compelling note, which is something that the series is doing very well so far. We'll get into that later. Put a pin in it. So we finally meet the male lead, and he is as intimidating and as big a looming threat over the narrative as you would hope at this stage in the story. The second episode is where it really picks up. This episode likes women a lot better, and the characters introduced are likable in some way, which is great improvement from the last episode. We are introduced to a mystery, the reason why the story has the name it does. We are dripped little hints throughout that suggest some latent magical powers in our heroine, and we are properly introduced to our male lead, who is a cinnamon roll, of course. The royal family are very sweet, perhaps a little bit unrealistically so, but we'll get into that. It's fine. I would have rather there been more intrigue out the gate. I feel like that feels more realistic, but it's fine. The episode ends, like the last, on a cliffhanger where our heroine's life is in peril, and it is perhaps the ideal scenario for her to really show what she's capable of. My questions, my comments, and my concerns. Number 1, how old is our heroine, Carolina? She seems to be in her late teens. They might have mentioned it, but the detail went over my head. It was probably said really quickly in passing. And our male lead, how old is Mr. Edward? He is, according to Google searches, they are 16 and 20 respectively. Respectively, sorry. That's a problem. The fantasy setting and the arranged marriage aspect does a lot to lessen the weirdness of this scenario, but it still feels really, really weird. This is a romance, but based off of how it's starting, I expect it to be a slow burn one, which is ideal. I'm crossing my fingers that he's 20 on the dot, and that she's on the older side of 16. So understandably, age gaps happen pretty frequently in fantasy, but when none of the other tensions of fantasy exist, it sort of serves to make it feel less like a unfortunate aspect of the times and more of something that's aspirational, which I don't love. The story has got a healthy number so far-ish of women in power, although they are really overwhelmed by the men in the story, even though it is a story that's meant to appeal to women. The Empress is shown to be formidable. Obviously, our heroine will become really, really awesome as well. Flora might be less awesome than she's presented to, which kind of concerns me, but it's nothing so big at this stage in the story, so I don't know how worried I am about it. I think that the biggest issue with the story so far is that everyone in this brand new kingdom that she's arrived in, like, treats our heroine far too nicely. She's a foreign not royal, but she's a foreign noblewoman coming into a country who has tensions with the country that she's coming from. It doesn't make sense for there to be no intrigue, no misgiving, no lack of trust, right? So, but I expect based off of the ending that there's going to be a little bit more pushback to her presence, and there's lots of time for that kind of thing to develop. Real quick, art and animation. The animation is average. It's just good enough. The character designs are fine. Some of the dresses are unbelievably ugly and for no good reason. It would have been better to simplify them as opposed to adding ridiculous details like the yellow sash on the blue dress. Just have her wear the plain blue dress. That's fine. That does enough. That even gets across the idea of the character a lot better than whatever it is that they went with. The dress that she wears in the new country, her standard everyday, gonna see it a million times dress, much, much better. Alright, so the visuals as a whole are pretty forgettable. Writing. The plot is thickening, and yet we're still doing a lot of telling when we don't have to, when showing is really enough. This happens less in episode 2, but notably it still comes up in these really serious and heartfelt moments that don't really require it. The music is fine. The series as a whole reminds me less of a less potent Nina the Starry Bride, a less effective The Saint's Power is Omnipotent, and I'd also compare it in tone to Past the Monster Meet Milady. Thus far, if you like the anime vague Western fantasy fairy tale setting with a Cinderella narrative, you'll like this. Many of these stories go the isekai route, which is sort of a cop-out to kind of explain why the world feels so flat because it's from a story. This one doesn't, which I think is really great. On the whole, I would rate this one a solid 3 out of 5 stars. It is slightly above average, and I think that I wouldn't not recommend this to somebody. If you watched the video, please in the comments tell me what you think. If you think that I said something totally off base, absolutely, say something about it. I'm keen to see it. I want to see other people's opinions. If you agree with me and want to say something, that'd be cool too. If you feel like it, give the video a thumbs up. If you don't, that's all right. Totally get it. No pressure. Do whatever feels right to you.